Very good morning to students. Hope you will be fine. So yesterday we have introduced our new subject, that is statistics. We have seen the growth of statistics in the world and in the Indian history, and we have discussed so many names from him and so many important years, then definition of statistics and so much small definitions which are used. Now today we are going further in the chapter that is on page number 3, primary and secondary data. Yesterday we have seen what is sample, population, qualitative, quantitative, everything with an example. Now today we are going to see primary and secondary data. Now first of all friends, again I need to repeat that this chapter is about collecting the data. The first and foremost chapter which we are learning now is about collecting the data. So for collecting the data, first you need to know what is a sample, what is a population. Population means all the units and sample means a unit selected from the population. We are selecting the sample. When we are eating something, when we are testing something, then we are not eating the whole thing, we are testing the small thing. In the same way, now how to collect this data, there are two methods, primary and secondary data. Meaning, the data obtained by any statistical inquiry must be correct and proper, otherwise no useful and valid conclusions are drawn. The data can be primary or secondary. Now what they are telling is that if you are collecting the data, then that is okay, but the data which you are collecting should be very proper, otherwise conclusions cannot be drawn from it. Now they are telling that data will be primary or secondary. Primary means you have collected, and secondary means you are taking the data from someone, you are not collecting it. Okay, in short what I said. Now primary data. The data originally collected by an authorized agency or investigators for the first time is called primary data. Please underline that formula, sorry not formula, but that definition. Primary data means the data collected for the first time is called primary data. Example is given very good. For example, the data collected by NSSO, underline that full form, National Sample Survey Organization. The data of population census of India, the data relating to death rates and birth rates in India published by Office of Registrar General, New Delhi, are called primary data. Population calculation is done every 10 years. Previously it was done in 2011, now in 2021 again the population of country will be calculated, and whose work is to do, government work is to do, they will go personally to each and every house and collect the data that how much persons are residing in that area. Now that is a primary data for you. Then again what they are writing? Secondary data. When an investigator or agency uses the data already collected by other agency or investigator, then such data becomes secondary data for the users. What they are telling? The data which is already collected by someone else and the other person uses that data for his things, then that data is called secondary data. Now what is the basic difference between primary and secondary? That primary data you have collected and you are only using. Secondary data is collected by someone and you are using that data for the second time. That is a secondary data. Now the difference between secondary and primary data. See, in previous standards, how we were writing the difference by drawing the columns. Here you don't need to draw that columns. You have to just write it in sentence, then that will be okay. Okay? Yes. Difference between primary and secondary data. Number 1. Primary data are obtained for the first time and it is original, whereas the secondary data are not original but it is collected and reused by others. What they are telling? Primary data. What is the basic difference between primary and secondary data? Primary data is collected for the first time, whereas the secondary data is already collected and used by others. So this name of this point, you can give the name of this point as originality. For the first point, to remember this point, in short, what you will remember? Originality. Now originality means what? Primary data is original and secondary data is collected by others, it is not original. So to remember easily this point, you may write with pencil near the first point, originality. Why I am giving these points? To remember. Whole sentence it is not possible to remember if you are remembering just the hints. These are the hints, so you will remember the point easily. Number 2. Primary data are collected from from the units under inquiry, whereas secondary data are collected from the primary data. What they are telling? Primary data are collected from the units. Suppose from 1000 students you have to collect the data, then you will go to each and every student personally, then that is your primary data. But if you are not going to each and every student personally and you are asking about them to their in charge or their teachers, then that is a secondary data. So for this hint is collection. Hint will be collection. Number 3, primary data are usually in raw form, hence they are required to be classified and tabulated, whereas secondary data are usually in classified and tabulated form. Form or format. I can give two names for this, form or format. Now what they are telling in third point, primary data is not classified or not tabulated. You are going to each and every house and collecting the data. Now you have the data of each and every house in different way. Now what you need to do, you have to arrange it in ascending order, you have to arrange the information from ascending to descending or descending to ascending. So it means that that data is in raw form, you need to classify it, you need to do in a tabular manner. And whereas this secondary data is classified and it is tabulated, so it is very easy to find the information. Number 4, collection of primary data requires large amount of money, time and energy, whereas the secondary data require comparatively less time, money and energy. Resources. What is the end? Resources. Time, money and energy. For collecting the primary data we need more time because we need to ask each and everyone personally. And for secondary data we require less time because we don't need to ask personally, we have to use just the data which is given by others. And last, number 5. Primary data are almost reliable, whereas secondary data obtained by individual institution for their own interest and hence may be not reliable or relevant from the point of view of users' interest. Reliability means you can trust them or not. Primary data you can easily trust because you have only collect the data, so you should be reliable on your data. आपको खुद के data पे विश्वास तो रहेगा ही. Whereas secondary data is comparatively less reliable because we are collecting that data from other people, not we have gone and collected. So what will be the difference that when we are going personally or we are collecting from others? The main difference is that in primary data you have gone, so it is reliable, you can trust that data. Now in secondary data it is not that much trustworthy because their instance and your instance, their motto and your motto, or what they are writing, their own interest, they are collecting according to their interest and we are collecting according to our interest. What is our need and what is their need will be somewhat different. So again, reliability is a different thing. So what are the hints? Originality, collection, form or format, resources and reliability are the simple hints which are to be written with pencil near the sentences so that you can remember them easily. Sentence can be of your own and this will be hints will be remembered. If you are remembering the hints, you can make the sentence on that basis. Okay? Yes. Now on page number 4 itself, methods of collecting primary data. Now we are only talking about the primary data now. What are the methods to collect it? There are many popular methods for collection of primary data. Commonly used methods are direct inquiry, indirect inquiry, inquiry by telephone or email, method of questionnaire, inquiry by local news reporters. We shall study the 3 methods for collecting the primary data: direct inquiry, indirect inquiry and method of questionnaire. There are different methods of collecting primary data, but we are using only 3 methods and which you need to underline. Underline these things everyone. Methods of collecting primary data are direct inquiry, indirect inquiry and method of questionnaire. Now we are not going to read in detail for each and every one. We are reading its advantages and disadvantages. Now before that advantages and disadvantages, we are just discussing what are they. direct inquiry, indirect inquiry, and method of questioning. Okay. Now, talking about these three in short. Now, as the name suggests of both these methods, the data is being collected directly to the person's face to face, then that is direct inquiry. The example which I have given just now, that the population calculation, which is known as population census, is conducted by the government of India every 10 years. Previously, they have collected this data in 2011, so plus 10, so 2021 next population census will occur. Now, what is their actual work? Their actual work is to go each and every house personally across the whole India. Means they will not leave any home by their itself. They will go to each and every house personally and may collect the data face to face. That is direct inquiry. Okay? So what is in direct inquiry? You will collect the data face to face. Now, opposite to it, face to face, indirect inquiry. Now, some people in our area will say that these people are not at house and they are at outstation for 15 days. Now, you need to collect the data in very fast time. You don't have 15 days to wait. So, what you will do? You are not going to that people's house personally because they are at outside stations. Now, from whom you will collect the data? You will collect the data from their neighbors. So you are not collecting the data directly, you are indirectly collecting the data from the neighbors. That is also face-to-face data, but you are not collecting the data from that person itself and you are asking to your neighbors. Questionnaire means there will be a form which are having question answers. Now that question answers are not like your exam papers, that long answers you need to write. That answers are very short or sometimes objective, not subjective, objective questions. Means you have to just select the options A, B, C, D, or suppose if you are going to any shopping malls or branded showrooms, then after your visit they are taking your review. Now in review, sometimes they are requesting you to write 2 or 3 sentences about them, and in most of the reviews they are not asking about the sentence, they are asking the thing from rate us from 1 to 10. That 1 may be very low and the 10 may be very high, or rate us from 1 to 5 stars. 5 stars are very good, 3 stars are average, and 1 star is okay. So they are asking in that way. Again, the thing that they are asking you is method of questioning. They are not asking you, they are not indirectly asking you, they are just giving a review form to fill up. Okay, so these are the 3 methods. Now, what are the advantages, disadvantages of direct inquiry, indirect, and questionnaire we are going to see. Okay. Now, advantages of this direct inquiry on page number 5. See, about direct inquiry, the thing is given that you will only read and understand. Okay. And if in exam they are asking what is direct inquiry, then simply it is written, explain here. Now you can do that also. Okay. Yes. Advantages of direct inquiry. The data obtained by these methods are accurate and reliable. How these methods are accurate and reliable? Because you are visiting them personally. Due to face-to-face interviews with respondents, enumerators can solve any question or doubt or any confusion by giving proper explanation. By personal interview, enumerators sometimes get supplementary information of the respondents which may be very useful at the time of interpretation of the results. See, second one is easy to understand. Now in third one, what they are telling, sometimes enumerator means the person who is going to ask. They are getting supplementary means secondary information that is necessary. See, if a person comes to our house, visits our house and collects the data from us, then with a face-to-face interaction with them, we can give the data, and also sometimes he may ask that question which is necessary but necessary not in to write on paper. Now what are they? Suppose for population census inquiry, persons are visiting your houses. Now these persons are visiting your houses, it is okay, they are taking the data from you, that is also a good thing. Now what supplementary data they can get, that sometimes if they are asking the data from you. Now there are some people who are afraid of giving their information, because in population inquiry you have to give each and every information. How much is your income, what is your, how much vehicles do you have, and this is somewhat a personal information. Now this personal information no one will give directly. So they have to take them in trust. Vishwas mein le lena. They have to take them in trust and may collect the data. So what enumerators will understand, that these people of this area are somewhat afraid to give the information. This method is much better when the field is limited. Now this is the main thing, friends. Okay, for government it is okay. For government it is compulsory, whether India is of 125 crore or India is of 200 crore. For government it is mandatory, it is compulsory to visit each and every house, but not for government. If we are collecting for us, for me personally, if I am saying, then I will collect the data face to face if the field of inquiry is very limited. If I need to collect the data in whole Kutch, then it is not practically possible for me. If the data is to be collected in Nakhatrana, full Nakhatrana, then it is somewhat possible. Okay? Sometimes when the respondents are unwilling to give particular type of information, the enumerator can get such information indirectly by asking supplementary question. Again, they are repeating the same thing. Suppose someone is afraid to give their personal data, then we are taking them in trust and we are trusting them that your data will not be misused, by giving assurance that misuse of information will not be done. Okay. Then what are the disadvantages? This method requires more time, more number of enumerators when the field of inquiry is very wide. If you have to take the data from whole Kutch, then you will require more time, then that is again a disadvantage, because it consumes so much time and your work will not be fulfilled fast. This method is more expensive. It is very but obvious, because going to each and every house will require so much money, so it is very expensive. This information collected by the method may be less reliable if the enumerators are untrained. If your agents which you are sending to each and every house, they are not trained properly, they don't know to talk to persons, then it will be again a great disadvantage, because the data will not be collected accurately. Okay, friends, these are the advantages and disadvantages about direct inquiry. Now indirect inquiry. Now they have given some of the points when this indirect inquiry is proper. See, they are writing, in any of the following situation, the investigator contacts an organization or a person capable of conducting inquiries and gets relevant information from such organization or person. Now, when this thing is possible, when direct inquiry is not possible and indirect inquiry is possible, see, they are writing 5 points, 4 points for it. When the direct source does not exist, when it is not possible to take the information from direct sources, when the field of inquiry is very large and lack of time and personal contact, you do not have so much time to collect the data and your area is very large, then again use indirect inquiry. When the information is obtained is complex. Why complex? Complex, what do you mean by complex? Simple and complex are opposite to it. If your field of inquiry is very simple, you can ask simple question and write the data. Your work is over. But if your work is very difficult, then how you will personally meet each and every person and ask this data? So it is again a disadvantage of direct inquiry. When the cost associated with the direct inquiry is unbearable. Just now in account we have learned the word. What do you mean by cost? Cost means the total of all the expense. So what they are telling here also, if your total cost is not affordable, means what they are writing, cost associated with the direct inquiry is unbearable. You cannot bear so much of expense for collecting the data, then you need to use indirect inquiry. Okay. Again, some introduction and some explanations are given. Now we are going for the advantages and disadvantages of indirect inquiry. Yes, this method is most suitable when the field of inquiry is very wide. This is the disadvantage of direct inquiry, but advantages of indirect inquiry. Because in direct inquiry we cannot go to each and every house, so we need to use indirect inquiry. When respondent associated with the inquiry is not willing to give the information, this is only the method to collect the information. When direct people are not giving the information, we need to ask it to some other people and we need to collect that data. It involves less cost, time and energy compared to direct inquiry. In direct inquiry the cost is very much, whereas in indirect inquiry comparatively the cost is less. This method is very much useful for various departments of government to collect various types of information. Sometimes not in population census inquiry. Suppose a Gram Panchayat needs to collect the data, then they will not visit each and every personal house. Instead what they will indirectly the main people of the society. In every society there are some heads and representatives of societies, society secretary or anything person, they will collect the data from them. Disadvantages: when individual or organization associated with the task of providing information have any prejudices or biased attitude, the information becomes less relevant. Just now I said, if you are not collecting the data personally from the people, instead what you are doing, you are collecting it from society's secretary, society's representatives, then this method will become disadvantage when they have a biased attitude towards you. Means in our language if we are saying, if we have अगर हमको उसके लिए अच्छा नहीं सोच सकते हैं, हमको उसके लिए अच्छा नहीं सोचना है और हमें उससे कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो हम उसके बारे में अच्छा नहीं बोलने वाले. It is but natural. So this method will become a disadvantage when you are having a biased attitude towards them. And the last, this method becomes useless when third party from whom the information is obtained is dishonest, inefficient, unable to provide the correct information. Now they don't have biased attitude. In first point they have biased attitude. उनको आप पे अच्छा फीलिंग्स नहीं है, अच्छा स्वभाव नहीं है आपके बारे में. Now that is about the first point. Now if in the second point both of you are very good, have very good relation, but the person from whom the data is collected, from the representative, is dishonest, वो कभी सच बोल ही नहीं सकता, वो हमें बोलता है, तो उसके पास कलेक्ट करेंगे तो हमें इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं मिल सकती. इनएफिशिएंट, उसको कुछ आता ही नहीं है तो उसके पास से क्या इन्फॉर्मेशन लोगे. And unable to provide correct information. Suppose sometimes it is possible he is not dishonest, he is honest people, he is a good man, but sometimes due to some personal information they cannot pass to you that personal information. So at that time also indirect inquiry will become a great disadvantage. So friends, this was about indirect inquiry. Now the method of the questionnaire we will take it tomorrow because it has 2 or 3 subtopics. There are only not the advantages, disadvantages. It has characteristics and very important concepts to understand also. So we will take it tomorrow. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you.